A small town's faith was shattered when a trusted priest, a man meant to guide and protect, betrayed the very people who looked up to him. A teenage girl, innocent and full of dreams, found herself caught in a nightmare she never saw coming. Her family, once devoted believers, were left broken, torn between justice and the fear of going against the church. But instead of staying silent, they did something no one expected. As whispers of the scandal spread, the town erupted with shock, and soon the story reached the highest levels of the church. The Pope himself was forced to respond, but was it enough? Would justice be served, or would power and influence bury the truth? This story is not just about one family's fight. It's about faith, betrayal, and the courage to stand against the unthinkable. Stay with us as we uncover this shocking truth. The girl's parents had always been devoted members of the church, trusting the priest with their deepest fears and prayers. He was a man they believed to be holy, someone who spoke of love, forgiveness, and faith. But behind the kind words and reassuring presence was a hidden darkness no one had dared to question. When their daughter came to them, her voice trembling, eyes filled with fear, they struggled to believe what they were hearing. How could this happen? How could someone they had trusted so completely betray them in such a way? The shock turned to anger, but more than anything, they felt helpless. The weight of the church's influence loomed over them, whispering that speaking out could destroy everything. Yet staying silent was not an option. As they searched for answers, they realized the truth was bigger than they had imagined, far more dangerous than they had feared. The parents wrestled with their emotions, torn between their love for their daughter and their fear of what would happen if they spoke out. The church had been their refuge for years, a place where they found comfort during hard times. But now that same place felt like a prison, trapping them in silence. Every Sunday, they sat in the pews, watching as the priest continued to preach, his voice steady, his face calm, while their daughter's life was falling apart. Rumors started spreading in whispers. Some in the community sensed something was wrong, but were too afraid to ask. Others noticed the change in the family, the mother's distant stares, the father's clenched fists, the girl's absence from church gatherings. When an old friend quietly warned them to be careful, it only deepened their fears. Was the church protecting the truth, or were they covering something much darker? The family had no idea what they were up against. The family knew they couldn't stay silent any longer. Every day, their daughter grew more withdrawn, haunted by the weight of what had happened. They had trusted the church to do the right thing, but as time passed, it became clear that no action was being taken. The priest continued his duties as if nothing had changed, his influence untouched. Desperate for justice, the father decided to confront church leaders. He expected outrage, maybe even support, but instead, he was met with cold, measured words, urging him to stay quiet for the sake of the church's reputation. The more he pushed for answers, the more doors were quietly shut in his face. Friends they had known for years turned away, unwilling to take sides. Then something unexpected happened. A journalist caught wind of the whispers. If the church wouldn't act, maybe the world needed to know. But exposing the truth would come at a cost, one they weren't prepared for. The journalist started digging, asking questions no one else dared to. At first, people hesitated, afraid of what speaking out might mean. But then, one voice turned into two, and soon, whispers became stories. Stories of things that had been ignored for far too long. The family wasn't alone. Others had their own secrets, their own wounds buried beneath years of silence. Just when it seemed like the truth would finally come to light, something unexpected happened. The church denied everything, calling the accusations false and an attack on faith. Suddenly, the family found themselves at the center of a storm, facing threats, pressure, and even doubt from those they once trusted. The mother started receiving anonymous calls, warning her to stop. The father lost business from longtime clients. Their daughter, already struggling, felt the weight of it all crushing her. And then a letter arrived, one that changed everything. It wasn't from the priest. It wasn't from the church. It was from someone even more powerful. The letter was from the Vatican. The Pope himself had been made aware of the case, and for the first time, the family felt like someone was truly listening. The message was careful, diplomatic, promising an internal investigation, but it wasn't enough. They had seen how investigations could be buried, how justice could be delayed until people forgot. Then the journalist uncovered something shocking. The priest wasn't acting alone. There were others who knew, others who had looked the other way. The cover-up went deeper than anyone had imagined. As the news broke, the town erupted. Some defended the church, refusing to believe the accusations. Others, once silent, finally spoke up. The weight of the truth was too heavy to ignore. The priest was finally removed, but the battle wasn't over. Just when the family thought they could breathe, another revelation surfaced. Someone close to them had known all along and had chosen to stay silent. The truth had finally come out, but it came at a cost. The family had lost friends, their reputation had been questioned, and their faith had been shaken. But through it all, they had stood by their daughter, refusing to let fear or pressure silence them. She was no longer just a victim, she was a survivor, and her voice had forced change. The priest faced consequences, but the damage he left behind could never be undone. The town would never be the same, divided between those who wanted to move on and those who demanded more accountability. The church promised reforms, but the family knew true healing would take time. As they walked away from the life they once knew, they carried something more powerful than fear, the knowledge that speaking out matters. Because silence protects the wrong people, and sometimes the hardest battles are the ones worth fighting.